Hey, welcome back to the Milton Price Report for January 2015. My name is Chuck Charlton from the Charlton Advantage team, and we're going to try and give you a sense of the meaning behind some of the information that we put in the report for this month. So you can download the PDF, you can look at all of the sale prices for every kind of home in town on the website. So let's get started. So the first page of the report is really just a disclaimer to say, even if you had all of the factual information about sale prices, if you saw general market trends in Milton, first of all, things change so fast in the market. And second of all, sometimes having the interpretation and the real life guidance can make a huge difference. So if you have any questions about your home or some of the things you can do to increase its value, watch at the end of the video. We're going to give you three options. Now, we really spent a lot of time as we head into 2015. At the end of 2014, we really spent time and said, what's the best way to display information? And if you remember some previous reports, we looked at the Toronto stats. And the reason why is because there's more numbers, and so there's less of a sway in between. Whereas in Milton, there might only be, a couple hundred sales a month, and a couple big ones can really throw the numbers off. So there's certain graphs that are just about Milton when we feel it's appropriate, and there's other graphs that are even comparing Milton to Toronto. First one is average days on market. And you can see that the days on the market is less in the spring. The only thing this graph says, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily better to sell in the spring. What it says is homes generally sell faster in that time of year. The next graph is active listings compared to the number of sales. And so what that really tells us is how quickly the inventory is swallowed up. And the other thing that it says is not every home sells. I think there's a perception in Milton, because the market generally is pretty good, is that, I'll list my home and sell it. And we talk about, when we sit down with the seller, there's four pieces to the puzzle when you list a home. And if one of them is off, you're probably going to take longer to sell, and you probably would sell for a bit less. And if two of them are off, you aren't going to sell at all. And that's based on the experience of selling more than 1,000 homes in my career. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Active listings and sales tend to correlate very closely. So what I get from this graph is, no matter what time of year you sell, people wait for the spring, but what can happen is the actives can even push up higher as a percentage compared to the sales. It means you've got more buyers, evidenced by the sales numbers, and you've got more selection in inventory. But you can also do very well in the off seasons. In January, February, we listed a home in December that was for sale for 3 or 4 months before with a different agent. We took it over, changed the direction of some of the marketing, changed the pictures. We sold it within a week, and I believe that we had an influence there. But I also think that the lack of other competition certainly didn't hurt us. So it can be a good time. I'm just listing a home this week, and we're putting it at $599. And between $550 and $650, there are 9 listings to compare. In the spring, there's probably going to be 70, 80 listings there. So really, the success, the chances of doing well is very high, especially when you're the only. Even in that $550 to $650 range, this is a double garage home, and 5 of the 9 listings are single car garage. So that's what I mean when I talk about interpretation and really looking at it from a buyer's perspective if you're selling, and saying, where's the opportunity? So throughout the whole year, there's a pretty even supply-demand ratio. It's just a question of if the numbers are higher or lower. Average sale price can be a very misleading graph, because you can look at this and think the spring or the fall is the ideal time to sell. But remember, average price can be influenced by larger homes selling. So if you get $2 or $3 million houses selling and a bunch of lower priced homes, it's going to average out. So take this graph with caution. What I tend to use it for is I look at the difference between the two the year over year. So Milton in 2013 compared to Milton in 2014, you can see there's some years where there was really no difference. And part of that is because, again, there's such a small sample size. If you look at the Toronto numbers, they flow much better, and you can see there's much more of a reliable difference between the two prices. On average, we use a ballpark of about 5% a year that Milton homes appreciate. But there are some homes in town that are closer to 10%. There's probably some homes that are closer to 2 or 3%. The general trend is towards the lower prices. They tend to appreciate a little faster. And up in the higher range, we don't see that aggressive increase in prices, just because the demand tends to be much more, I would say probably under about $650, and anything priced around $400,000 has huge demand. And those properties, it's not a matter of if you sell, it's how high can you raise the bar. So Milton overall had a great December. If you look at condo towns, if you look at condo apartments, 6 sales compared to 5 new listings. Townhouses went crazy, 38 sales compared to 18 new listings. So for the majority of these categories, the number of sales compared to the new listings came out was higher, which I don't think we've ever seen in the Milton Price Report, which means the back catalog was getting swallowed up along with pretty much everything that was getting listed. It was one of the strongest Decembers I've ever seen. Now there's a page in here about our team. Feel free to read about that and our philosophy and the direction and the beliefs we have about selling a property. There's also some nice words that people have said. If you are interested in hiring us to help sell your house, feel free to go ahead and read that too. And finally, there's 3 things you can do next. The first one is you can request a pinpoint price analysis to find out exactly what your home would be worth in today's market. We also look at the competition factor. If you were to list, is it in fact a good time? Is there a lack of competition? I find most people in our industry are just looking at past sales, but the problem is it's in the past. It doesn't reflect today or likely what's going to happen in the next 30 days. Second is the room by room review. And so what we do is we would walk through a house and we would give recommendations. We would also look at what you're planning on doing and say, okay, is it a good use of your time and money? I just spoke to a client and he was asking if it's a good idea to finish the basement, and I gave him some recommendations around that, whether it's a pool, hardwood floors, doing some work in the kitchen, countertops. Just spoke to a couple last night. They had a question about countertops, and so all we can do is just give you the factual information about what that usually does to the value so that you can really be smart about your investments, if any, in your house. Usually takes about a half hour to do that. And finally, the silent market of homes is an opportunity to reach out to us and see if we are working with anybody right now who's looking for a home like yours. We believe in being very proactive in looking for a buyer. We've got a huge mailing list through our Milton Daily Homes broadcast. We have about 13,000 people in that mailing list. And so for me to even send an email out and say, you know what, tonight I'm going to see a couple with a 4-bedroom detached home. Let me know if you're interested. And I've arrived at that home a few hours later with about 10 emails saying, yeah, I really want to hear about that home. Can you tell me where it is? Can you show me pictures? And so if you are interested in maybe selling it before it hits the market, then you can reach out to us and just give us some information about your house and maybe even when you want to move, and we can take it from there. So that's those are your 3 next steps, and this is the Milton Price Report for January 2015. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again next month with the February report.